Sophia Taylor was a rich girl. In my previous life, I worked myself to death to be worthy of her. I worked until I threw up to save her family's company, and even when she needed a kidney, I didn't hesitate to give mine. Later, when I was dying and she appeared before me together with blonde Jake Miller, I finally understood. The company wasn't mine, the child wasn't mine, and I was merely another pawn in their PUA game. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day her mother handed me $500,000 and told me to leave Sophia. I took the bank card with a face full of delight. "All right, Mrs. Taylor, I'll make sure to get as far away as possible." Mrs. Taylor looked somewhat startled, as if she hadn't expected me to agree so curtly. "Are you really willing to leave Sophia?" I nodded repeatedly. Who would turn down money? Reborn into this life. Even if Mrs. Taylor didn't intervene, I would still stay far away from Sophia and make sure she was completely tied to blonde Jake. Mrs. Taylor sneered. "It seems you didn't love Sophia that much after all." Yes. Mrs. Taylor, don't worry. I definitely won't pester Sophia anymore. A proper ex should be like a dead person. I was afraid she'd change her mind, so I hurriedly put the bank card back into my pocket. After Mrs. Taylor left, I lit a cigarette and took a few gentle puffs. In my last life, I fought desperately to keep her from being with Jake Miller, but in the end I died at the hands of that pair of scoundrels. If you love blondes so much, then in this life I'll give you a little push. Seeing $500,000 hit my account, I breathed a sigh of relief. With this money, some ideas and skills from my past life could finally be realized. My family wasn't well off. I paid my own college tuition by working. Sophia may be a rich second-generation heiress, but she spends recklessly and without restraint. She often burns through her allowance in less than 3 days. From now on, I could only live off my part-time job pay, and I was always looked down on for not having money and being made to buy her burgers every day. But she didn't know that when I was alone, I filled my stomach with only 2 flatbreads. None of that mattered anymore, because I had been reborn and was about to have a better life. Back in the dorm, my roommates were discussing the new university student technology innovation competition. The first prize is $5 million, second, $3 million, third, $1 million. The Jing City University of Technology, where I study, is a strong contender for the championship, so my roommates were all very invested. But I clearly remember in my last life, Sophia and I formed a team and registered, yet the software we ultimately developed ended up listed under Jake Miller's project. For a time, I was labeled a thief, shameless, a plagiarist. I endured utter contempt from teachers and classmates and nearly got expelled. It was my mother who knelt outside the principal's office all night before I could barely finish my studies and get my diploma. Because of that incident, I became truly alone, never having a real friend again. But in this life, just watch how I toy with you all. Ethan, you're a tech expert. You have to sign up for this competition. Sophia will definitely pick you as her partner. Too bad, that prize money's not for me. Ethan, when you get the prize, remember to take us to get our feet washed. Same as always, stall number 44. The roommates chatted noisily about the competition. They believed that with my abilities, as long as I was willing to sign up, I would surely place. At that moment, Sophia's call came through. "Ethan Johnson, let's sign up as a team for this competition. I believe in you. We can definitely get a good ranking." A faint sneer tugged at the corner of my mouth. "Fine. All right, I'm just in the counselor's office, so I'll fill out the application form for you." You could tell she was quite pleased, but I knew she was only happy for Jake Miller. Jake Miller was just a student at the vocational school next door, nothing but a womanizer and a party animal. In my previous life, he stole my competition results and took the championship. This time around, I'll give you an incomplete, faulty program and see how you explain it to the judges and the school. My roommates all signed up in teams one after another. As for me, I waited until the last day, withdrew from Sophia's team, and planned to register alone. Just thinking about the astonishing technologies that appeared later in my previous life, I was absolutely determined to win the $5 million prize. But for now, I needed to hurry and change the key data of that software on my computer and then delete the results as well, because in my last life I had entered using that very program. Sophia would definitely try every trick to extract it and then hand it over to Jake Miller. That evening, Sophia called to invite me to dinner. I knew the opportunity had finally arrived, so I gladly accepted. Dinner was very simple. I had a bowl of salad in the cafeteria. It looked like the allowance her mom gave had already been spent, and it's only the 5th day of the month. Ethan, why are you bringing a laptop bag to dinner? Sophia was as youthful and pretty as always, wearing a skirt that reached her knees and a snug school uniform stretched tight. She was very excited to see me. I'm developing a new piece of software lately, so it's convenient to carry a laptop with me. I replied casually and sat down to eat the salad. Really? Is it for competition? Sophia took the laptop bag and opened it to take a look. But her mind wasn't on studying. She couldn't understand much of the code at all, yet she pretended she did, repeatedly offering praise. Ethan, you're amazing. I admire you so much. Hearing her insincere words, my stomach churned and I almost vomited the salad. After a long while, she asked cautiously, Ethan, can I borrow your computer to take home and look over it? After all, we're partners. I need to familiarize myself in advance. I'll be presenting it on stage later. I snorted inwardly and nodded. Fine. Watching her leave happily, cradling the laptop, a trace of mockery tugged at the corner of my mouth. Sophia, this is where we begin. Time passed quickly, and on the last day to register, I withdrew from the team with Sophia, and to prevent her from causing trouble later, under the witness and supervision of our counsel, Mr. Jones, I filled out an individual entry form. That evening, Sophia stormed over to me. Ethan Johnson, why did you quit the competition? I made up some random excuse. My health hasn't been great lately. I can't stay up late, so I have to give it up. Why don't you sign up by yourself? Besides, this software is nearly finished. I've run it many times already. Sophia said regretfully. Then forget it. I'll try harder next time. She was going to hand the results over to Jake Miller. There was no way she would sign up alone. On the surface, she pretended to look regretful, but in reality, she was probably already overjoyed. Mrs. Taylor had very high standards for who she wanted her daughter to date. With that halo, Jake Miller's identity became that much easier to accept. I watched her mood swing unpredictably and couldn't help but find it amusing. A month later, to everyone's eager anticipation, the tech competition reached its finale. Each team submitted their research results, and unsurprisingly, Jake Miller submitted the same project I had submitted in my previous life, a piece of firewall software. At the competition venue, several members of the Engineering Academy sat among the judges above, along with senior judges from many prestigious universities. Sophia and Jake Miller wore matching couple outfits, sitting close together and looking very intimate. But Jake Miller's blonde hair somehow seemed out of place at the event. It seemed they didn't know I would come. When Sophia saw me, her face went pale, while Jake Miller looked at me with a provocative gaze and deliberately raised their interlocked hands in front of me. My roommates couldn't stand it anymore. Ethan, this guy actually dared to poach your girl. How arrogant. After the match, we'll give him a good beating to get you back. I waved my hand to cut them off. No need. Sophia isn't my girlfriend. My roommate's mouth opened and closed. Usually I'm head over heels for Sophia. What happened today to upset me? It wasn't until Jake Miller went on stage to explain that Sophia walked over. Ethan, he's my cousin. I'm here to accompany him in the competition. What are you doing here? I'm here to compete too. I nodded indifferently. You dropped out, didn't you? Sophia said in surprise. I signed up again later. I was bored. I didn't want to waste words with her, so I went straight backstage to prepare. Sophia's expression changed for a moment, but when she thought of Jake Miller already on stage, she relaxed. In such a short time, she didn't believe I could have developed a new piece of software. On stage, Jake Miller stammered through the introduction of that firewall technology, but he was completely unprofessional, merely reading from script, which caused the judges to frown one after another. Jake, are you sure you developed this software yourself? Jake Miller nodded repeatedly. This is something I spent half a year developing. If you don't believe me, I have the original code here. Jake Miller submitted the materials, thinking the judges would be stunned and immediately award him the championship. But things were not as he imagined. The judges still frowned tightly. This firewall software may be good, but the code is nowhere near finished and it doesn't provide any real network defense. Soon a judge ran a test, and the computer screen filled with lines of garbled text. Jake Miller's scalp tingled instantly. This can't be. Jake, this was stolen from someone else, right? An academician, Dr. Brown, asked with a stern face. In the audience, Sophia's expression also changed. She clearly remembered that day it was a complete copy of the stuff on my computer. How could there be a mistake? She searched everywhere for my figure, but there was no trace of me left. That can't be. Didn't Ethan write this software? All the computers in our dorm use this firewall. Our roommate, Mike, shouted from the audience. Another roommate, David, stood up as well. Exactly, it was developed by Ethan. Look at the last line of the code. There's Ethan's name and pinyin. That's his signature. The judges and the people in the audience immediately focused their attention and saw that on the last line of code, it really was the pinyin of my name. With this, the accusation that Jake Miller had plagiarized someone else's work was completely confirmed. I detest plagiarism and copying above all else, one judge said angrily, pounding the table. Jake Miller's face went pale. He tried to explain, but before the ironclad evidence, any explanation was pale and powerless. In the end, Jake Miller was thrown out of the competition venue and permanently banned from this contest. The enraged academic judge immediately chose to call the police, threatening to hold Jake Miller legally accountable. Half an hour later, I was on stage in formal attire, enthusiastically presenting a new AI software I had developed, causing an uproar at the venue. This software was so far ahead that it completely exceeded people's understanding. Several large companies immediately offered to buy it for $10 million, and one firm offered me a $500,000 annual salary to join them directly. But I turned them all down because my sights were set on far more than that. The championship unsurprisingly fell into my hands. Afterwards, Sophia came to me with red-rimmed eyes. "Ethan Johnson, why didn't you tell me you entered the competition secretly?" "Tell you what?" "Tell you I secretly sent it to Jake Miller." Sophia's face went pale instantly. "Ethan, sorry, Jake Miller offered $100,000 for this software, and I foolishly agreed for a moment, but luckily it didn't really affect you." I sneered inwardly. It was clearly you who crawled back groveling to him. "So why are you claiming he bought you with $100,000? I didn't want to waste words on her, so I slung my backpack on and prepared to leave. "Ethan, can you please not pursue legal charges against Jake Miller? Otherwise he'll be ruined for life," she said through clenched teeth. "No." I hoisted my backpack and walked away. I wouldn't let such a good chance to send him and go to waste. "Ethan Johnson, you bastard." Sophia stomped behind me, cursing loudly. "Don't you dare regret it." After leaving Sophia, I felt my steps grow unusually light. As graduation approached, I kept to myself more than usual, continually refining this AI software, and with the $500,000 her mother had given and the prize money from the competition, I registered a company outright and threw myself wholeheartedly into the software's development and promotion. Sophia had come looking for me a few times during this period, but my roommates always turned her away. What was unexpected, though, was that she still presented herself as my girlfriend, and from time to time posted our old photos together on the school's online forums. I didn't pay it much mind. Graduation was imminent. Everyone would soon go their separate ways, and those rumors would collapse on their own. Class monitor Emily Carter posted a notice in the class group. With graduation approaching, she was organizing a camping dinner so everyone could get together. Everyone readily agreed. Sophia even took it upon herself to cover all the expenses, instantly winning many people's favor. Miss Sophia is so generous. We're still struggling to find internships, and Miss Sophia is already preparing to go home and take over the family business. So enviable. Miss Sophia is so domineering. Can you get me into your company so I can have an internship certificate? Sophia relished being the center of attention, so she posted in the group. No problem. Anyone who hasn't found a job yet can intern at my company. At the same time, quite a few people in the group also had me. I pretended not to notice. As it turns out, as long as you have money, even if you've committed countless wicked deeds, people will still keep flocking to you. The scandal about Sophia and Jake Miller stealing my research results was all over the place. Yet people still couldn't help licking their boots. I snorted. If I remembered correctly, the Taylor family was about to go bankrupt, and she would fall from her cloud of privilege to the ground. In my previous life, I had struggled desperately to pull Taylor Enterprises back from the brink of death. This time, I'll just sit back and enjoy the show. The camping dinner was held at a Blue Mountain resort in the suburbs. The scenery was beautiful, and the prices were steep. Sophia took charge of everything, piling on lobsters, abalone, and red wine as if they were free. I guess this meal wouldn't cost less than $100,000. If I remember correctly, the Taylor family had already cut off Sophia's card, and she was now living by borrowing money. To my surprise, the vocational school where Jake Miller studied was also dining here. Sophia waved her hand, and the two groups sat together. A month later, I saw blonde Jake Miller again. The incident where he stole my work in the competition was taken to court by the organizers. Sophia spent a lot of money to settle it, and the organizers also informed me that a compensation payment would soon be deposited into my account. When Sophia saw me, she looked very aggrieved. "Ethan Johnson, why won't you see me? We haven't broken up yet. What's something we can't settle face to face?" "Huh? Sorry, I forgot. Then I'm officially notifying you now. We're breaking up." I waved my hand. "You, Ethan Johnson, you bastard." Sophia's pretty face suddenly clouded over. At that moment, Jake Miller also walked over. "Ethan Johnson, how can you, a grown man, be so petty? Sophia already gave you a way out. Who do you think you are? It itches because I paid you too little?" I glanced at him sideways. "You." Jake Miller's eyes instantly turned bright red, a flash of resentment passing through them. "Jake, don't pay him any attention. Let's go." Sophia's pretty face went pale with anger as she grabbed Jake Miller and tried to leave. But at that moment, the resort owner, Mr. Wilson, came in holding a bill. "Miss Sophia, this bill comes to $220,000. I'll give you a discount. $210,000 will do. Would you like to pay by card, or—" Sophia's face went pale. "Oh, how could it be this expensive?" The restaurant owner opened the bill and read the prices aloud, item by item. "Miss Sophia, our shop is honest and fair. Only fresh ingredients. No cheating of old or young. 80-odd people ate the lobster and abalone meal, and they stomped through thousands worth of red wine. This price really wasn't expensive. Well, I don't have the funds these 2 days. Could you give me 2 days? I'll leave this bag here as collateral." Sophia whispered softly into the owner's ear. The restaurant owner glanced at the bag worth only $20,000, and it was secondhand, then immediately jumped up. "That's not acceptable. It's a small business. We don't offer credit. If you're trying to eat for free, I'll call the police." The owner's loud voice immediately drew everyone's attention, and Jake Miller and his vocational school gang began whispering. "Didn't they say she's a second-generation rich? She can't even pay for a meal. If you can't afford to invite us, then don't invite us. You're acting like we absolutely have to come mooch off this meal. How embarrassing." Jake Miller was also desperately shaking Sophia's arm. "Sophia, do you actually have money to pay the bill? That's one of our classmates. How am I supposed to keep my standing later?" Although the classmates didn't say anything, their faces looked rather displeased. Sophia's face was nearly buried in her hair. She wanted nothing more than to crawl into a crack in the ground. When had she ever been this ashamed? Even after borrowing from every friend she could, she had only managed to get $100,000. She looked up at me, then hurried over. "Ethan Johnson, lend me $200,000 and I'll pay you back later." "No money, not lending." I refused without even looking up. "You just had a $5 million prize. How could you be out of money?" Sophia's voice rose. In the past, whenever she asked me for money, when have I ever refused? "That was my money. What does it have to do with you? It's not like I'm treating you," I said angrily. Her parents were sharp. How did they end up with a daughter who was a fool? "You." Sophia fumed, her chest heaving. In the end, it was class president Emily Carter who stepped forward to defuse the situation. "Let's split the bill, everyone. It's not right to always make Sophia pay. After all, it's our last meal together." Reluctantly, everyone split the cost. For those still in school, $2,000 or $3,000 apiece wasn't pocket change. Not everyone could earn money during their student days. Each of them looked at Sophia with malice, their faces practically screaming those few big words. No money, why invite guests? Sophia knew she had no face to stay here any longer, so she sulked into the camping tent alone, and Jake Miller followed her in. Although that little episode had happened, The sadness of parting still washed over everyone. Many people drank themselves into a stupor, and couples huddled together, burying their faces as they cried. I ordered a beer by myself and lay under a tree enjoying this rare, quiet time. Night fell, and the sky was sprinkled with stars. In this lifetime, my business empire has already begun, and it's bound to be spectacular. Jake Miller had come over at some point, a victor smile on his face. "Ethan Johnson, can you lend me a condom?" He drew out the word condom, especially long, as if deliberately trying to disgust me. I smiled. The day had finally come. Of course. I took a box of 001 from my backpack that I had prepared long ago. Of course it had been tampered with. I had punctured it with a 2mm needle. Sophia had kidney disease since childhood. The Taylor family spent a fortune arranging a match for her, and I was the only one in the whole class who matched. In my past life, I foolishly gave her one of my kidneys for the child, only to learn as I was dying that the child wasn't mine at all. This life, however, if she becomes pregnant, it will only hasten her death. For months passed quickly. Under my management, the company had also gotten on track. Once this AI software was released, it caused an uproar. The company hadn't even gone public before it was valued at over $5 billion, and tech giants began sending purchase inquiries, offering over $10 billion. But I turned them all down. This software is just the beginning, with memories from my past life. I'm going to build a real business empire. Just when I thought I had no more dealings with Sophia, the front desk called one day, saying 2 women with the surname Taylor had specifically asked to see me, claiming they were carrying my child and threatening to make a scene at the company entrance if they weren't seen. I had no choice but to ask the front desk to bring them to the reception room. Sophia was already visibly pregnant, sitting on the sofa with her belly protruding and a look of utter despair in her eyes. Beside her sat Mrs. Taylor, still wearing that same haughty expression. When she saw me, Mrs. Taylor immediately stood up. "Ethan Johnson, I warned you from the start. Don't you dare come near my daughter again. And now you've gotten her pregnant. She has renal failure. She can't possibly have a baby. Ethan Johnson, either you pay up and we'll find another kidney donor so Sophia can have the baby, or you give one of your kidneys to Sophia. 2 choices, you pick." Mrs. Taylor pointed at my nose and shouted. Actually, I knew money was really her goal, because the Taylor family was already filing for bankruptcy and urgently needed a lifeline. "How much do you want?" I asked with a smile. Mrs. Taylor, sensing a chance, glanced at my company and then held up one finger. $10 million, and you'll cover the cost of Sophia's surgery. And Sophia just lay on the arm of the sofa, sobbing uncontrollably. I pressed down on Mrs. Taylor's fingers and chuckled lightly. "I choose. The third option, no money, and as for kidneys, not going to give one either. Security, throw these 2 out for me. Not allowed to set foot in the company again." Mrs. Taylor seemed unable to believe her ears. She immediately put her hands on her hips and said angrily, "If your last name's Ethan, if you don't pay up, I'll tell everyone you raped me. Someone, Mr. Ethan at your company toyed with my daughter's feelings. She's pregnant, and he won't take responsibility." Mrs. Taylor's voice was loud. Everyone in the office heard and turned curious eyes toward the reception room. "Right?" I laughed. "Why don't you ask your precious daughter whose child this really is?" I threw up the video of that night when Jake Miller came to me asking to borrow a condom and turned the volume all the way up. "Ethan Johnson, lend me a condom." A few minutes later, they just saw Sophia and Jake Miller crawl out of the tent together, the flush on their faces not yet faded. Mrs. Taylor's expression immediately crumpled. She spun around and slapped Sophia in the face. "You shameless thing. Weren't you adamantly swearing the child was Ethan Johnson's?" Sophia covered her slapped, reddened face, unable to speak for a moment. I. After a moment, she suddenly knelt before me. "Ethan Johnson, I was wrong. Please save me." I disdainfully brushed her dirty hand aside. "Sophia, if you have time for this, you might as well go find Jake Miller. His kidney might just be a match." Sophia lowered her head. "He's missing. I can't reach him." "How does that have anything to do with me? If you terminate this pregnancy, you might still be able to live." I waved my hand. "I can't terminate this pregnancy. If I do, I'll never be able to become a mother in this lifetime." Sophia shook her head continuously, her face full of anxiety. Ethan Johnson, I know you still love me. Please, I'm begging you, save me and the baby. I promise. Once the child is born, I'll live properly with you. She raised her hand to swear. Mrs. Taylor also tried to persuade at this moment. Ethan Johnson, Sophia only made a mistake that every woman makes when she's young, but the child is innocent. If worst comes to worst, once the child is born, let him take your surname. I was stunned by this mother and daughter. What kind of oddballs are these? With brains like that, Taylor Enterprises not going bankrupt would be a miracle. The mother is brainless, the daughter promiscuous. Old Mr. Taylor probably doesn't even know how many cuckold hats he's been made to wear. Ethan Johnson, the mother and daughter were about to say more, but were roughly escorted out by the security guards who had arrived. Next time you're this slow getting here, don't bother coming. I glared at the two young security guards. The two lads broke out in cold sweat, nodding repeatedly and saying yes. And you lot? Not coming to class. The men and women who had been watching from outside immediately dispersed in a commotion. After driving the mother and daughter away, I immediately contacted a private investigator, Detective Smith. That pair certainly wouldn't let things go easily, so I had to gather some evidence in advance that would be favorable to me. After all, the company is currently in the process of going public, and any negative impact could cause unexpected problems. Detective Smith was very efficient. In less than 3 days, he had uncovered all of the Taylor family's information and tracked down Jake Miller's whereabouts. The Taylor family is now bankrupt. The company's assets have all been mortgaged, and there are huge outstanding debts. The villa was auctioned off, the cars were used as collateral, and the three of them are crammed into a 2-person rental room. Mr. Taylor was already mentally exhausted, and after hearing about Sophia's scandal, he was so furious he was bedridden. After leaving Sophia, Jake Miller got hooked on online gambling and racked up over $1 million in debts. He's now on a run from creditors and has hooked up with a new little delinquent. But surprisingly, Sophia did not choose to have an abortion. Has maternal instinct really overwhelmed her? Or is she planning to build the image of a great mother? As it turned out, I was right. Barely more than 10 days later, Sophia started live streaming. She went around the old school chat group, spreading that I had seduced and abandoned her. After I became successful, I had dumped her and her son, painting herself as a noble mother. She was seriously ill and carrying my child, insisted on giving birth. I was callous and heartless, abandoning wife and child while living it up and enjoying glory. For a while, former friends all sent questions. Of course, a few roommates came to comfort me because they knew about those broken things of Sophia. She changed her live stream title to Mother with Renal Failure Insists on Giving Birth. Heartless Boyfriend Goes Missing. Next, they tagged my personal account and the company account. Under the control of the Taylor family mother and daughter, the live stream room quickly shot up to the #1 spot on the trending list and stayed there. A large number of onlookers flooded into the live stream, launching a barrage of accusations against me and the company. For a while, my personal account and the company account were directly overrun by online trolls, leaving the company's PR team in a sweat. The company is now rushing to go public. If this matter affects it, the stock price could collapse and market value could shrink dramatically. But I signaled them to keep calm, let the bullets fly a little longer. I was preparing to deliver the most fatal blow. The situation continued for days. Sophia's live stream audience directly surpassed 10 million. She had become a top streamer. Every day she live streamed, crying and accusing me of all sorts of crimes, arousing viewers' sympathy and anger, and people online were insulting me every moment. Sophia also seized the opportunity to start live stream sales and run advertisements, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars in just a few days. Mrs. Taylor sent a message. $30 million, and we'll let you go. I snorted and immediately blocked her. When Detective Smith sent the final piece of evidence to my inbox, I knew it was time to strike back. Detective Smith may charge high fees, but he's extremely professional. He even dug up the video of Sophia and Jake Miller in a hotel room. Just thinking about it gives me chills. Fortunately, I always stayed in hotels alone. Otherwise, the secrets you imagine would already have been publicly dissected by countless people. From Sophia, and Jake Miller collaborating to steal the software I developed, to Jake Miller asking me to borrow condoms, to the Taylor family, mother and daughter, causing a scene at the company, plus the string of evidence Detective Smith uncovered. The PR department worked overnight, using both my personal account and the company's accounts to dump all the evidence out at once. Sophia happened to be live streaming at that moment, crying to her viewers about my wicked deeds and how strong she was. But the evidence released by the PR department had already shot up to the trending list. Different voices began to waft through the live stream. Ethan Johnson and his company seemed to have responded. Everyone go check it out. I've watched it. Things seem different from what she said. Everyone go watch the video. There's a plot twist. Holy shit, this woman's values are insane, even crazier than Mauron. The livestream room instantly turned into a battlefield, and Sophia seemed to sense something was wrong. Mrs. Taylor's call came in at that moment. Sophia, something's wrong. Quickly end the live stream. Sophia frantically opened the trending list. When she saw one after another of the incriminating videos being posted, Sophia's expression began to change. Among them, the two-person video was particularly glaring. Although the key parts were hidden, both faces were still clearly visible, and there were even close-ups. With each piece of evidence she watched, Sophia's face grew paler and paler. By the end, she could hardly hold the microphone steady. In the live stream room, the comment barrage had already become overwhelmingly one-sided. All kinds of vicious insults and curses kept pouring in. So it turned out this whole thing was staged and acted out by that bitch herself. The child isn't Ethan Johnson at all, and she still expects him to take responsibility. What a terrible woman. I actually foolishly believed it, and even sent her a big rocket. Give me back my big rocket. Give the money back, refund. The livestream room was thrown into complete chaos. Sophia turned off the live stream with a pale face, panic written all over her. Not even 10 minutes had passed before the major brand she had been working with started calling, demanding to cancel collaborations and threatening to hold her legally responsible. Viewers who had placed orders in her stream all started requesting refunds, and the platform had no hesitation in approving them. In less than half an hour, her account's deposit was completely wiped out. The small rented room that the three of them squeezed in was dug up by netizens too. There were streamers broadcasting downstairs every day, and people threw trash and rotten eggs at their home, making the whole neighborhood full of complaints. The residents of the community all turned their anger towards Sophia and her family. The old men and women stood at their door every day, cursing and harassing them. The landlord could not stand it and had no choice but to evict the three of them. I originally thought that would be the end for Sophia, because the city no longer held any place for them to live, and her kidney must have already been pushed to the limit. She probably only had a few days left to live. But on the night, 3 days later, I received a strange phone call. Is this Mr. Ethan Johnson? This is Officer Davis. Yes. A pregnant woman named Sophia Taylor tried to jump into the river to commit suicide. We rescued her, but she's emotionally agitated and is requesting to see you again. To avoid causing trouble for the police, I decided to go and cut ties with her once and for all. When I arrived at the riverbank, Sophia was surrounded by a group of people, and a female officer nearby was gently consoling her. Mr. Ethan, you're here. This person was shouting to see you, otherwise she threatened to jump, the officer said, clearly exasperated. I walked up to Sophia. She looked utterly haggard, her hair damp. When she saw me, her eyes brightened and she crawled over. Ethan Johnson, you're here. I knew you wouldn't abandon me. Can you have the pregnancy terminated now, please? I looked at her now 6 or 7 months pregnant belly and shook my head. Even if she had the operation while still alive, the result would only be 2 dead bodies. Officer, she's gone mad. You'd better send her to a psychiatric hospital. Upon hearing that, Sophia immediately screamed. Officer, he's the father of the child, but he doesn't want me anymore. He's guilty of abandonment. Please arrest him. Arrest her. Arrest her. Looking at Sophia's crazed state, I couldn't help but feel like laughing. Compared to the misery I suffered in my previous life, the little suffering she's enduring now is nothing. Far from enough. Someone from the crowd couldn't help but step forward. Young man, when a husband and wife quarrel, be more accommodating to the pregnant woman. Just let her have the last word. Take her back first and deal with it later. I glanced sideways at the old man who had spoken. If you're so kind, then you take her back. The old man's face flushed. I'm too old for that. Another old man nearby couldn't help but speak up. How can you be so short-sighted, young man? She's pregnant, you know. She can't stand a cold wind by the river. You're so magnanimous. Why don't you raise the neighbor old Wong's child then? Young man, I advise you not to be so haughty. Do you know anything about respecting the old and loving the young? Isn't being hot-blooded what youth is for? The policeman walked over at that moment, and I placed the evidence on my phone in front of him. I'm not the child's father. The policeman nodded in sudden understanding. Then let's find a way to contact her family. Thanks for making the trip, Mr. Ethan. The on-looking old men and women immediately quieted down. An elderly woman put her hands on her hips and said, Young man, the child may not be yours, but the girl is yours. Have another one in a few years. It's so hard to find a partner these days. If you can tolerate it, then tolerate it. I sneered. Auntie, you're so patient. Why don't you marry him and be his daughter-in-law? Auntie's face turned pale. My child wouldn't look down on this sort of scum. At that moment, someone suddenly shouted, She's bleeding, she's dying. Sophia's face turned as white as paper. Fresh blood kept flowing from below, and her whole body collapsed onto the bed, convulsing incessantly. She kept shouting, Help me, help me. Ethan Johnson. Find Jake Miller. Didn't you insist on giving him a child no matter what? I said, gripping her chin. Sophia looked dazed, not knowing whether it was from anger or from such pain that she couldn't speak. I knew she didn't have much time left. Her kidneys were the biggest problem, and the pregnancy was only the final straw that broke her. Of course I wouldn't go and kindly remind her. Soon, the police car sped her to the hospital with sirens wailing. 2 days passed like that, and as expected, Sophia's condition worsened. The stress of the pregnancy had destroyed what remained of her already compromised kidney. To buy her more time, Mrs. Taylor chose to save the mother over the child, because tests showed the fetus had congenital kidney failure and couldn't survive. Mrs. Taylor came several times to ask for help, but each time the security guards turned her away. Naturally, I couldn't see her, nor could I offer any assistance. But another video Detective Smith sent me did pique my interest. Mrs. Taylor actually hired people to drag Jake Miller back. I opened the video. The background was the hospital parking lot, and Jake Miller was beaten, blood gushing from 7 wounds, kneeling on the ground. Are you the one named Jake? You ruined my daughter. Now she's between life and death. Will you pay or not? Jake Miller was on his knees, begging for mercy. Auntie, I don't have money. Isn't Sophia from a wealthy family? And Ethan Johnson is rich. Go to him. He'll surely take responsibility. Nonsense. Ethan doesn't see me at all now. It's all your fault, you damn bitch. Mrs. Taylor fumed, slapping 2 big backhands again. If you have no money, then give your daughter's life to me. Drag him down and test him for kidney compatibility. If he doesn't match, then sell him. Mrs. Taylor spat at Jake Miller. Then she was dragged away by 2 big men. Jake Miller struggled desperately, but it was utterly useless. I closed my phone, a trace of a smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. Although Mrs. Taylor's horizons were limited, she had plenty of ways to torment people, because she had risen by sleeping her way up 3 times herself. Sure enough, in less than 2 days news came. Jake Miller's kidney actually matched Sophia's. Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Taylor were overjoyed. They pawned everything pawnable, shamelessly borrowed heavily from relatives, and scraped together the money for the kidney transplant. Sophia had little time left. The kidney transplant was carried out shortly thereafter. As for Jake Miller, no one even asked whether he agreed. He grew up in the streets, had no idea who his parents were, and now owed a huge amount to loan sharks. He was constantly hiding from debt collectors and had long since been blacklisted. Boss, should we keep monitoring Sophia Taylor's updates? Detective Smith messaged. Of course, you can't miss a dog-eat-dog spectacle, I replied. 1 week later, Detective Smith sent the latest news. The kidney transplant failed because Sophia, due to her pregnancy, had a body too weak to accept the new kidney. She had an acute rejection reaction the day after receiving it, and a few days later the new kidney also completely failed. Sophia ultimately didn't pull through and died on the operating table. I had long anticipated this outcome for Sophia. From the moment she decided to carry the child to term, she had already walked onto a dead end. As for Jake Miller, his constitution was already poor. After the failed transplant, he was kicked out of the hospital and left to fend for himself. Having already collapsed before, and with only one kidney left, he simply couldn't get back on his feet. At this time, another creditor came to the door, threatening to cut out his other kidney if he didn't pay. Jake Miller dragged his badly injured body out of the city, hiding wherever he could. I closed the message from Detective Smith on my computer, walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, and lit a cigarette. I looked out at the brightly lit city. They're finished. My life is only just beginning.